Okay, we should go and get started. Thanks everybody for coming. I'm going to let Dr. Corey run everything because it's her show today. I did want to let people know because we've got something different going on. It's our first ever Thursday afternoon discussion. For years we had Friday afternoon discussions. Decades we had Friday afternoon discussions. I guess about 3 or 4 years we switched to Wednesday afternoon discussions. But because that storm we got a few weeks ago, was that a Wednesday afternoon, Tim? Yeah, it got kind of scary to be outside, so we didn't want to make people come over. So Dr. Hill of our very own anthropology department was planning on giving a talk then about race and the environment, and we had to bump it up till tomorrow. So if you're free and want to come by, it's the same thing, 4:10 to 5:10, there'll be food provided, and we'll just hang out for an hour and talk about his research on this question. I think the race and the environment the environment part is Little Rock, Arkansas, so it's something close to home if you're interested in that. So thank you. Dr. Cora, please.
Hello, how are we doing? Okay, let's. There's no reason we can't get cozy, so let's just get cozy. Come on in, come close. There's 2 seats here. There's some seats here. Okay, so this is welcome. This is a conversation on material religion. Most of this room knows what it is because you guys are in my Anthropology of Religion class. But if you're new to it, good news, you'll learn more today. So I have a little opening question to get us started, and that is, think of an object, any object. It could be a piece of jewelry, a t-shirt, a cup, something in your life that is really important to you, that holds a lot of meaning. What gives it meaning? And then bonus points if it happens to be an object that you consider sacred, and even more bonus points if you happen to just like have it with you or on you. So think for like 30 seconds about that, and then think with a friend next to you. I'll set my watch because I don't have my handy dandy timer on me. All right, do we feel like we have them? We good? All right, share it with a friend next to you. Go.
Oh my God, what is yours? One of the bedrooms in the older renovation house. Our house, and it just reminds me one of the rooms, even though the room, the key's useless. But it reminds me of what used to be carpets. When historically most people had keys to their homes and they left with them, thinking they were going to come back. Because some people actually legit left with their keys when Israel was being established, thinking they were going to come back, but they didn't. So, oh wow. I don't know if that was
All right, let's bring it back to the big group. Does anyone have a thing that they want to share, an object that is meaningful to them? You're all talking about something. Yeah, Dave.
I'll go first because I want to shout out my friend group. So
Oh,
I
yeah,
kind of
there we
have
go.
2 pieces.
Okay.
These 2 pieces of silver jewelry. These are actually the first ever gifts that I've gotten from a friend group.
Aww.
And so like this, the ring I got, my friends got it for me from my birthday last year. And then this one, my friends got it for me on my birthday this past week.
Oh
so.
my gosh, this past week when you were sung to so beautifully.
What? Oh, right. Yes, that.
That's so
and
great.
yeah, these are the items that mean a lot to me, since these are like the first gifts I've ever gotten from friends.
Oh, I love that. So it's something that you can wear that makes you think of your friends. Good. Anyone else? Yeah, Dima.
I'm gonna kind of copy Zayd, but this is also what I told Anna. Probably my name necklace. It's like a Muslim girl thing to have a name necklace in Arabic. Like no matter what your like ethnicity is.
Yeah.
I don't know, like it's just been a thing for years.
Uh-huh.
Like and I feel like for when it starts conversation, because people are like,
what is
does that say? And I never take it off. Like it's always on, like no matter what. But also when I see another person with like an Arabic name necklace, I'm like, you're like me. Like I'm like, I feel safe. Like
I
I'm
love
like,
that.
Like we're the same. We got the same background.
Yeah. So it also like connects you to other people. It doesn't just sort of connect you to yourself and to your
Like when I tell you every single Muslim girl has one.
I'm gonna start noticing that now. Okay. Nice. Anyone else? Have an object that they consider. Yeah. Very.
Also jewelry. But after my mom passed, my dad went through her jewelry and he found 2 silver necklace chains, and then he bought 2 little silver anchor pendants. And I hate that I can't remember the song, but he, put the anchors on them, and it was meant to represent like, it was a song lyric about like my parents' love being an anchor in my life, and how, I'll always be connected to them through this, and like it's a representative of that. And my dad's not a very sentimental person, like openly. He is very much in his heart, but openly not very much. And so the fact that he took the time also to remember that I only wear silver jewelry, I don't wear gold anymore, that meant a lot to me. I don't wear it that much anymore, but I used to wear it like all the time.
Yeah. Oh, I love that. That's really great. Anyone else have anything? Do you guys want to know what mine is? Oh, okay, go ahead. I want to know what yours is.
These 2 bracelets I got when my grandparents passed away from different forms of cancer, and I haven't taken them. So I get to carry them.
Yeah, I like that. Mine is kind of similar. My engagement ring actually was my godmother's. We share a middle name, and she lived in a log cabin. She never got married. And she lived alone in very rural Alabama. And she always said, I was always like intrigued by the fact that she had this like big piece of bling on her hand. She was a very simple woman. And she always said, it's going to be yours one day because we share a name, because her middle name is my middle name. And so when she died, she left it to me. And I was like in my early 20s, which is like early 20s in Alabama is like early 50s anywhere else if you're not married. And so I used to wear the ring, and my mom was like, you have to take it off, people will think you're married. And so I did for the longest time. And then when I actually did get engaged, looking back, I'm like, I should have just worn the ring. But I like kept it. And then when I actually did get engaged, my husband didn't have to get me a ring. Yeah.
Mine isn't jewelry. Mine is a book that my grandmother gave me. It's a picture book version of Anne of Green Gables. That was the first book that she ever read, and it's like on her own in its entirety. And I fell in love with Anne of Green Gables completely separate from my grandmother. I guess from her perspective, I walked into her house one day and I was like, hey, I need to watch these movies with you. Because she has all the VHS of the 1980s.
The Megan Follows?
Yes. Yeah.
Okay.
Which are very special to me in my own way. Yeah. But she gave me that book and then her collection of the original series, and told me that she just wanted someone to give them to someone who would love them as much as she did as a kid.
Oh, that's
and
nice.
like I have a lot of cousins who like those books too, so it meant a lot to me that I was the person.
Yeah.
And the book is from like the 60s. Like she's beat up. She can't go anywhere.
Oh, that's sweet. That's really sweet. I love Anne of Green Gables. So stuff, no matter whether it's religious or not, it often has sort of a sacred meaning, right? I have always found myself sort of fixated on material stuff, because like long after an experience, that's sort of all that's left, right? So, and it's even better if it's like something you can hold in your hand or fidget with, right? Move around. And so today we're going to talk about material religion, but know that that is pretty broad, right? Our sense of what is and is not sacred can be very, very broad. I'm going to skip over my question, my next question, because I just want us to have more time to talk about stuff. Okay. So what is material religion? Well, one, you can think of material religion as stuff that comes from religious traditions, right? That can help you mediate the divine. So it refers to the means through which the divine is mediated, right? So very rarely, unless maybe one of you has had a divine experience, but very rarely does God or the divine just like show up in front of you these days, right? You have to, usually there's someone else standing between you and the divine that kind of helps you get closer to or access it. So material religion refers to the means through which the divine is mediated. This is from Matthew and Gelke, who is an anthropologist of religion, who says all religion is material religion, meaning that the material is kind of all we have. All religion has to be understood in relation to the media of its materiality, which might be a little bit confusing, but we'll think about this a little bit more. In other words, material religion refers to the processes through which the immaterial, the things we can't touch or hold, become material, right? How do these things become material? And also, often, more often than not, those things happen in community, right? Communities give that material an immaterial significance. So you can learn about a community through its stuff too. So what exactly constitutes material? Think about this for a second. When I say material, what are you thinking of? Yeah.
Something tangible.
Something tangible, something you can hold or grasp. Okay. Anyone else? Is Aesop material? I can touch him, right? So our bodies are material too, right? We can mediate the divine through our bodies. You can also mediate the divine through your words, through the things that you say. So it is stuff, but it's also matter. And it's also words. And so material religion has a really broad scope. My favorite definition of material religion thus far has come from one of your classmates who used ChatGPT in a heroic way to figure out what material religion is. And so this person asked ChatGPT to narrate in gay bestie voice what material religion is. And here's what we got. Babe, basically all religion is like a group chat. You don't get the direct tea. You got to go through someone else to hear what's really going down, right? So you don't always get access to the divine directly. Usually you get it in and through communities, although you can alone, right? We could talk about that if you want to, mystical experiences. But usually you have to go through a community and you have to go through the stuff, right? The stuff of religion to kind of get to the divine. And so when you really look at the conversations going down about stuff, you can learn a lot about a community. This is, thanks to Isa, this is a good example of us kind of thinking about religion, material religion side by side. So here's a tale of two photo shoots. These are two photo shoots that were done for religious purposes, sort of. My kid's daycare has Santa come here on the right-hand side. So that's my child, that's my 2-year-old, that's Willis. It's his second Christmas, but his first Christmas photo shoot, courtesy of Milestone's Daycare. And then on the left, you have Aesop's sweet little nephew, Liam,
yeah.
who's 3.5, and this is his Ramadan photo shoot. So I want you guys to think about these two things next to each other. What do you see? What's going on here?
Okay. Liam looks like he has bills to pay.
Okay, say more.
If you just look at his stance, like he just looks. Do you know what I mean?
Yes.
He's like, he's ready.
But obviously, like, as someone who's Muslim, I can tell like the significance in the photo, like the moon and the star, and then the prayer mat that he like the mini kid prayer mat, which is adorable. And then also, what is it called for men? It's not a bio for men, but a thol still.
I have one, but I have no idea what it's called. Yeah. I'm not gonna lie.
But it's like all like mini versions of like
versions of grown-up stuff.
Yeah.
So was Liam fasting this Ramadan?
No, but he tends to say that he is if you ask him.
So you can see, even though Liam cannot yet fast for Ramadan, right? He's too young. He's already like in the posture, right? He's putting himself in the posture. He's physically getting dressed for it too, right? He's ready. And he has his little prayer mat. And all of these things, by the way, are material, right? These are things that you could potentially commodify, right? You might have to find a child's prayer mat or the prayer beads that he's holding. So all of these things are material. What about on the right? What about little Willis? What do you see there? What's going on?
Willis doesn't have those.
He does. He just doesn't care. We would like for him to very much get a job.
Give him a year.
Yeah.
There's nothing overtly religious in that photo. Like
Right?
Santa and Mrs. Claus, they're secular
Yeah.
characters and that's considered part of the Christian tradition. And the Christmas tree is not even like it's become normalized within the
Yeah.
holiday, but it's not technically doesn't have any religious basis that we use it for. And I'm like trying to see the ornaments, and I'm not seeing anything on the ornaments that's like a cross or something that
Yeah.
you would traditionally see places decorated with. But I assume is his daycare isn't a religious affiliated. Yeah, so there why would that be up there?
Yeah. Yeah, so it's sort of happenstance, right? I just like sent my kid to school, and then a couple weeks later we got these photos. Like I had no idea that they were gonna take a picture with Santa Claus. But Santa Claus is, he's become more of a cultural figure than the religious one, right? He could be modeled after Saint Nicholas in the Christian tradition, but he's sort of come to be this, right? A sort of innocuous, kind of secular figure that makes us think about Christmas. So even though Christmas is a religious holiday, it has a lot of cultural influences that kind of make it cultural too. Yes.
Oh, in Sri Lanka, Santa carries a stick with balloons.
Really?
That's like a thing. Yeah, he carries like a stick of balloons, and then sometimes he gives the balloons to kids, but sometimes he doesn't.
Oh,
But the stick of balloons is like a thing. It's a part
that's
of
really
the
sweet.
entire get up with the sack of toys.
Yeah.
With a stick of balloons.
So that's another good example, right? Of like even the way the story is narrated, the material you use to tell the story changes depending on the cultural context, right? So stuff has long been important in the world of religious studies, and it really, some of it goes back to the Protestant Reformation, which I asked Connor, what's Connor, why can't I think of Connor's last name on this? Yeah, Connor Reynolds, if we could borrow his shirt, to give you a sense of where we're journeying back. We're journeying back to the Protestant Reformation.
Nailed it.
Nailed it. This is in reference to Martin Luther and his 95 Theses that he supposedly nailed on the door, although he didn't. Okay, so thinking for a moment, remembering back to your social studies class, what were the reasons for the Protestant Reformation? Indulgences, right? Can you say more about what indulgences were?
I'm like blanking, but it was basically people were required to do services for it?
Yeah, so indulgences were like they were selling forgiveness. Sure. So that's one of the narratives that's given about the Protestant Reforming movements. What else? Yeah.
Was it like dissatisfaction with the Catholic Church?
There was
Okay.
dissatisfaction with the
Okay,
Catholic
yeah,
Church.
there was dissatisfaction with the Catholic Church, and like a lot of what they were against and what kind of spearheaded the Protestant Reformation was specifically like they felt like the Catholic Church just was too material, they were too corrupt, they had too much control.
Yeah.
As well as what else? I'm blanking on the last thing. I had something else in my mind back then.
Well, like, what I hear though is lots of twos, right? The Catholic Church was to this, to this, to this. So it was very much this like moral, Protestants think of it as this like moral moment, right? That is bound up in this conversation of materiality. One of the big things that comes away from the Protestant Reforming movements is the idea that you could have, for example, a biblical text in your home that you read, right? Does that mean that no Catholic has a biblical text in their home that they read? No. But the practice in Martin Luther's kind of thing was that he wanted personal devotion to happen, individual devotion. Now, this has been really interesting this semester because y'all have been, a lot of our anthropology of religion students have been working in different field sites where the approach to a biblical text is very different. So for example, in the Episcopal Church that I grew up in, Catholic Light we're called, the Bibles are there. They're already there for you. You walk in, you don't bring your own. But in several of the other placements that people have been in, other Protestant denominations, you BYOB, right? You bring your own Bible. So thinking about that, even in and of itself, can tell you a lot about a community, right? What does it mean that a community assumes that you're going to bring your own Bible? What kinds of assumptions or ideologies do you think might be in there? Yeah.
You've already been invested in this religion enough to purchase a Bible, or it's been in your family long enough for someone to have given you a Bible.
Yeah, there's a personal devotion there. There's an intimacy there. What else?
It kind of assumes that like they expect those churchgoers to be like at a higher level of religiosity. Like for example, like nowadays you don't really see too many Christians like like having their own Bible with them like throughout in the street. But like perhaps like it kind of assumes that like okay, but people within this community, they're like they have a Bible, they're going to bring it,
Yeah, so there's again that sense of like personal devotion and ownership. So I say all of this not to say that the Catholic Church is bad and the Protestant Church is good, but to say that there's this whole moral conversation that is happening, especially for Protestants, around materiality at this point. The sale of indulgences, for example. There was, for Protestants, they thought there was too much of a focus on materiality. This follows us well into the colonial period. This focus on material. So beginning in the 1500s, Protestantism in particular develops this tense relationship with material, right, with stuff. And it's really part of the problem. That tense relationship comes with what Webb Keane, who's an anthropologist of religion, calls the inescapable materiality of religion. Meaning that if you want your religion to become a religion, you gotta have some stuff. Right? You got to have a Bible, you got to have not every religion has a Bible, right? But just speaking through a sort of Christian lens, there's stuff that belongs with the institution of that religion. And so Protestants were very nervous about how close our relationship should be to stuff. So why do you think they were so worried about that? Why do you think there was a lot of hand wringing about stuff? Yeah, Tina.
I think for one, like concerning religion, people to pass down religion often feel like there needs to be something there that people in the future can rely on to learn. And I think, all religious texts obviously have a background behind them and how they were brought down. But I think that for one has like brought security within a lot of people to follow religion. Because it's like, oh well, the Bible has been around for so many years, like so many people have followed it. That brings someone security. So I think it's this level of like sometimes people need things that are tangible to feel secure. But that obviously plays into your argument that religion is.
Well, Protestants, remember, they thought they were really going rogue, right? Yeah, go ahead. Did you have a?
I think maybe you worry that you might get too attached to the stuff.
Exactly. Right? That the stuff is supposed to be symbolic of the other thing, but it can't be the other thing. This is what Protestants were so nervous about. In fact, they were so nervous about it that really into the 18th century and beyond, Victorian anthropologists, when they talked or thought about material, they used people's relationships to materiality as sort of a way to index culture, right? They thought Protestants were the most refined because they knew that it wasn't the thing itself, right? That the thing was pointing to someone else or something else, but the thing itself was not what was sacred or religious or holy. And so they use this kind of theory of culture, theory of materiality to decide who was and was not primitive, right? So Protestants were at the apex. They were the best. They had the best sense of it. And then everyone else kind of falls down the line. So since then, anthropology and religious studies has thought more about material religion and thought, well, one, that's very problematic, right? To discern who is not cultured enough or refined enough by their relationship to material stuff. And so what it's really become is material religion has become a way to think about lived religion, right? What can our stuff or our relationship to our stuff or our conversations about our stuff or even the words we use tell us about religion? So instead of thinking about an abstract notion of belief, it becomes more to what can we hold, right? What is tangible? How can we talk and think about what is tangible?
Can materiality also include, in this case, labor
Sure.
And also profit in the form of money, specifically coins. Because when we look at, I'm seeing the names here and I'm connecting them to some of the social theorists
Yeah,
that
Tyler
like,
Fraser.
yeah, or like Max Weber, or even
Mhm.
like Fraser. So these, like, I think it fits in this context too,
Mhm.
right? The idea that they actually looked at, it's related to, maybe I see, because at Protestants at some point they did actually start seeing labor,
Mhm.
actual physical work, which can in some ways be, I guess, material, and then the actual profit off of it as a way, as a path towards religious salvation.
Mhm.
So I'm
Mhm.
like, I don't know, I think it's kind of like, that's just to kind of take it to my own corner of social
Yeah.
theory. That's really kind of what I'm seeing here too. So,
Yeah, the like
yeah.
influence of capitalism.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I think you can't think about the influence of capitalism without thinking again about this moral lens that we
Mhm.
put on material, right? You can have too much stuff, you can have too little stuff. You could be Donald Duck with who is it, Donald Duck? Who is it that dives into the swimming pool? Scrooge, that dives in the swimming pool full of coins, right? And so when we talk about material, there's always, or often, more often than not, some kind of like moral something to it.
Yeah.
And religion is very much a part of this conversation. The thing about material religion is you can't really understand it unless you situate it in a local moral world. So you've got Ariel with her dingle hopper, right? So Ariel has the fork. She doesn't know how to use it. She thinks it's a comb, silly Ariel, right? But if she knew, she was really part of the community, she would know that you eat it with a fork. So we've got a bunch of stuff out there that some of which we have some sense of how it might be used, and some of which we have no idea, right? Because we picked it all up from secondhand shops. But we can't know the significance of material without knowing the role it plays in a community. Webb Keen puts it this way, says the material religion constitutes the objects, words, artifacts, gestures, images, etc., and how they're used, what they represent, and how they relate to each other. So how do these things connect to one another? So a couple examples that we've thought about recently in our class, for example, is Matthew and Gelke writes about a group of Massaway apostolics in Zimbabwe, and they are Christians that they don't read the Bible. That is their claim. They don't read the Bible. And instead of reading the Bible, they receive it live and direct from God, from the Holy Spirit. And so there's even one instance where the guy says, this Bible is like toilet paper to me, right? It's just paper. But I can see on some of your faces, you're like, wait, no, that's not what that is, right? Because we have a different relationship to the text than they do. Another example is Canadian liberal Protestants in Rebecca King's book called New Heretics, which talks about these liberal Protestants in Canada who have a relationship to the biblical text where they read it alongside science, where they read it alongside history, and they sort of decide which parts of it should go and which parts of it should stay, right? So you have a moving in and out of material. We also have Black Sunni Muslims in Los Angeles who have had a tense historic relationship with soul food, but have kind of come to think of soul food as a sort of reclamation of or connection to their history of enslavement, but also by cooking soul food as halal soul food, they're connecting it to their relationship as Muslims. And then you have white evangelicals, Susan Harding, who writes about the book of Jerry Falwell, talks about the sorts of language that's used when someone is witnessing to another person. So if I'm trying to convert you, I'll use particular sets of language. All of these things are about material. They're about the stuff we do or say and the things we can hold in our hand. So today, I'm going to skip ahead. Today we have a bunch of secondhand items. These come from they come from their stores around Conway, but the idea comes from James Below, who is another anthropologist of religion who has a secondhand sacred exhibit. And what he says is, churches close, producers stop producing, people die, but things survive, right? So long after we're gone, perhaps this t-shirt will still be around, right? So we have kind of been thinking this semester about stuff. So we wanted to think about how religion is mediated through objects in Conway. We created a list of secondhand stores. We went to the secondhand stores to do recon missions. So we took some photos of what was there. And then one Friday, instead of coming to class, we all went to the thrift stores. We had a big budget of $100 to spend, and we spent it. Actually, I think we still have $20 left that we never spent. we went to, I think I had this right, Painted Goat, Goodwill, Painted Pug, and the Ghost Store. Am I missing anything? 2 Goodwill stores.
There was also that Peddler's Mall.
Oh, the Peddler's Mall and the Peddler's Mall. So this is sort of analytical and imaginative work, right? So we are about to spend time with these objects, analyzing them, but we're also kind of imagining because there's only so much we can really know. So when we read an object, but in our class, we've kind of thought about when we read an object alongside a text, it takes on new meaning, right? So for example, some of the stuff you're gonna see out there is from evangelical churches in the 1980s. Well, the book of Jerry Falwell, what I just referenced, kind of talks about the kind of rise at Jerry Falwell after a sort of moment of focus of pious in-home devotion for evangelicals. They begin to move out into the political sphere with the rise of Jerry Falwell. So you'll see some of that, right? You'll see tapes from that time period that are really thinking more about what do we do in the home and less about how do we kind of politically engage. Unfortunately, oh, sorry. I'm trying to see if there's anything else I want to say. I don't think there's anything else I want to say about that. Okay, so here's a couple of things we have out there. A children's comic book from 1964. I'm gonna let you guys look at it on your own. We have Muslim prayer beads from our own Professor Isat, who gave these to me when he heard what we were doing. We have Reflections of Moral Innocence, a 1992 set of tapes. We also have a working tape player, might I add, should you want to play something. We have Christian tarot cards. We only discovered today that these are Christian. And we also have this sweet, this is my favorite thing out there, this cradle roll promotion for Ralph Bowen in 1944. So that somehow ended up at the Painted Goat. We have some word art. And what I want you guys to do is just go check them out. Spend some time with them. Walk around, look at the items, look at the objects. We have descriptions for most of them, but some of them we couldn't really find out anything. And so this is a community curated event. And the reason it's community curated is because what's the best way to learn about material religion? In and through a community. So today we're going to be part of that. We're going to kind of think about how these objects might be given meaning and how we might assign them meaning in this particular time, in this particular moment. But I'd also encourage you, everything that we could has a year on it. So think about the year too. What does it mean? For example, Susie, I'm gonna pick on you for a second. So Susie thought about the, was it Reflections of Moral Innocence in the DVD?
It was You Can Be Beautiful.
You Can Be Beautiful, written in 1984, alongside God Made Princesses of All Shapes and Sizes in 2007, right? So what do those two things, what is holding them together or looking at them together, help you think about the way that religious instruction might be given to young girls in 1984 and in 2007. So that's just one example. So you can look at them on their own, but you also can look at them in relationship with one another. So get up, move around, head on over. There's pens under the TV. And just take some time. Feel free to talk about it with a friend and write down whatever you want to write under the sort of community curation about what you're thinking about with this particular object.
This is so good.
So good.
It's okay. I can't. No, it's fine. Sorry.
And some of them have stuff from classmates on here to kind of get you thinking about the material.
Wait, what's this? Oh, God. Nice, right?
This is the. This is the. Roll.
Where's the Bible?
Remained for many years and married.
Oh, I did. I have listened to those.
Oh,
Yeah, we can put them in.
Yeah,
You want to?
we wanted to listen to the one on marital dominion.
Okay. Yeah.
So I didn't realize that this was.
I know it's very 1974.
That's this is the kind of stuff I fall asleep to with my dad watching
Really?
TV.
That's precious. Okay, go ahead.
The tape deck is on the side.
Oh. Oh.
Okay, so we're gonna have to. Like, this is gonna show the opposite direction.
And then you're gonna see.
And then I have no idea.
So
what I'm doing.
young. Cool.
I don't want to hear a tape or something.
Yeah, that wasn't Sulfur. That's the 1974.
No.
Is that the comic book?
Mhm.
What is it called?
Okay. Move out.
All right, Gen Z,
Sweet.
let's move.
Sweet,
I
sweet.
told
young
you, I
Gen
told
Z.
you I wouldn't be able to make it happen before.
What? We just weren't sort of.
Oh.
Shifting your focus to pleasuring your partner and enjoying
Five.
your intimacy and doing away with the preoccupation of other things.
I feel like I'm listening like
Yawning during your next
FDR radio
labor
hour.
is not advised. That's one
Don't yawn during
with him or her. And this was to fortify that the lack of sensitivity or intimacy develops into complete harmony of love when we are sensitive to our partner's needs. When we read his or her signals, nothing can cool down the fires of passion faster than an inappropriate and insensitive statement given at the wrong time. You're hot, you're sweaty, you're passionate. When you hear what you hope to be the echoes of your own passion, and she speaks, honey, did I tell you Susie was racist?
This is awesome. Bro. This is great.
Oh, Susan.
Oh, what you're doing right now.
This is bad.
Why are some of you nodding your heads? An inappropriate statement lingers beyond just that session. It stays with you made in the form of wondering. It stays with you. It isn't over with when it's over with. So, if doing most of the time the focus is not with me, and then the next time they come to the very first experience, haunting them in their memories is that insensitive in speech. The emphasizing the value of sex is never from minds who said, well, I guess our common response is why is it that all we ever thinks about? I mean, for goodness sakes, studying the desert without water.
Well, Bentley, no. Does that one have one? It's a
Even some in this room. If you are here and you feel this way, we can only ask you to consider that possibly what your mate is looking for is something more than just a biological release. He or she is looking for a relationship that only you.
Do you need a bar?
Is more than just two warm bodies, but also two warm men. It is the need for spiritual oneness that fills the void of our own insufficiency.
Oh, good. Okay, nice.
He's always chasing you around. Well, in some cases, she is always chasing you around. Maybe the reason is because you have something they want and need. And it's more than biological.
I'm not gonna lie. Sometimes he starts saying something, I'm like, okay, and then it hits. I'm like, oh, stop talking.
He said my name.
I know. I do, but I don't.
But you're discouraged because next week you gotta do it again.
I think we all did it.
This attitude is not only an offense to your race, it's an offense to God. Let me put you back into the purpose of the service.
I did not hear all of that.
He guesses that not wanting to be intimate with your partner is offensive, not only to your partner, but to God.
Make sure your attitude is in line with God's when it comes to this subject. There is nothing spiritual about not being sexual.
He keeps saying mate, and it really hurts me. That is weird.
He's trying to be gender inclusive.
Intimacy.
It's there.
So let's shift our attention now to how can
And we didn't
build
use the word
intimacy
partner at this point in
in
time.
non-religious
No.
terms.
So stop.
So Dr. Edgy, in his best-selling book, Intended for Pleasure, states that there are 3 guidelines to building and maintaining marital intimacy. He said there's love, sensuousness, and sexuality. Love, sensuousness, and sexuality.
Say that.
You know, of course, it's an action, and certainly it qualifies to be a feeling. But in marriage, there is another way to describe it. And that is, it's a growing trust in your marriage. You cannot build intimacy in marriage without a love trust in each other. You cannot build intimacy when you are afraid of exposing your needs.
Yeah, it was
and
not
your
a couple days ago.
feelings.
Should be a couple days
Afraid
ago.
of them
Yeah.
being rejected. Intimacy grows out of a trust. I said on other occasions that the commodity trust is like a bridge. It's a bridge linking my need to belong with my belonging. It's a bridge linking my need to be loved and loved. It's a bridge linking my need to be accepted. So here I am.
And then she said, like, today class, she was on the outside. She said, like, talking about that. And it's just so you to go.
This is crazy. You can have it.
So other people were talking about, like, they never get, well, they get high 80s, low 90s. And I'm just
If a husband or a wife is afraid of hurt, rejection, criticism, or misunderstanding,
right now he's talking about you have to have trust in your partner in order to have a healthy intimacy. Which I, you know, a clock is right twice a day.
You know, it's a pretty old saying for a little Gen Z person to know how to say
Hey, so get into our 80-year-old.
your old souls. Yeah, yeah.
We do. That's beautiful. I just want to go back to my room and go to bed. We want to get up and go, oh, and I sit down and I go, oh.
Sensuousness can be defined as the need to be held, to be founded, to be caressed, to be touched. He says sensuousness should not be confused with sensuality.
Hey, I deeply want to go to bed. You know, I don't like this last one either.
What you're doing with it, you have to be. Intimacy before.
Dude. No, I know. Hey, he's right there. Yeah.
True. Be imaginative, be explorative. Not every touch that we give to our mates automatically assumes that we want to be sexually intimate at that moment. But it's part of being intimate. That's what I understand. It's part of being intimate. Physical touch is a non-negotiable process of
Well, that's not, that was Methodist. Catholics, it's because my dad never got rebaptized. What?
I know, this is great. Yeah. I should have. I.
I think that thing's pretty awesome. I
It is-
figured that would represent Conway.
It's very anti stuff too. All right, let's regather.
Although I'll check it.
So this is the only thing I offer.
All right. What'd y'all learn? What did you discover? What are your curiosities?
One thing I found to be the most interesting is like specifically like finding out those tarot cards are Christian tarot cards.
Yeah.
Especially since like I was under like the very like the assumption that like especially tarot is mostly associated with like pagan practices, like religious pagan practices. So I expected like, oh, like that huge anti-pagan rhetoric that especially like European Christians spearheaded. And then like, you know, having these Christian tarot cards is just really surprising.
Yeah, yeah, this like mixture of Christianity and tarot. Very intriguing.
Yeah, it really seems like another example of like Christian syncretism.
Okay.
With like pagan cultures.
Yeah.
Which you saw a lot in like
the beginning of Christianity.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Early medieval Europe.
Yeah.
Especially with stuff like Christmas.
Yeah.
Just as attempts to continue the Roman tradition of like syncretizing everyone to make it easier to like get along.
Yeah, that's interesting. So this is like a reinstantiation of like Christians' early interaction with paganism, but now it's new paganism. Yeah, that is really interesting. It's an interesting way to think about it. What else?
I was interested in the Hanukkah products, the ones that are called. This is a product of Israel. When I think today Hanukkah has become more like Christmas in the traditions of decoration, that actually Islam has gone through a similar kind of trend as well, where people now in Ramadan decorate their homes, kind of almost in following a Christmas kind of way. And Hanukkah also historically did not actually have as many decorations the way that many Jewish households do. But then the idea here is that I think a lot of those products that today people decorate with, whether it's Ramadan or Hanukkah, are probably just like everything else are produced in China somewhere. And yet there's an attempt with those in particular, the ones we saw here, is that to push or attach that everything is Jewish necessarily must have a relationship to Israel, when Judaism can exist away from Israel as a state as well.
Yeah,
So-
yeah, it's interesting. And actually reminds me of the plates. Did you see the plates?
No. The plates. Oh, yeah, okay.
The gift bearers. Because those plates are also supposed to come from Jerusalem. And so there's this like production value, I guess, too, that's sort of attached to the Holy Land, to holy places. Good. What else did you guys learn and discover?
I was interested in the comic book.
Yeah. What do you think about that?
I know this might be an effective way to like communicate all of this in more of like a visual way.
Yeah.
And I was also like, interested by the specific choices of like
Hot
animals.
Jesus.
Oh, yeah.
We can go ahead
and also just like with like certain animals in the ocean and things like that, like why these like specific examples were used and things like that. So
that's interesting. So wait, what animals in the ocean were you?
Like there were like there was like a squid, there was I think there was like a pretty good like variety of different things that were included. So I was intrigued by that, seeing like, okay, like they did consider thinking of like including a squid.
Yeah, that is kind of weird.
Yeah.
That's funny.
Something that me and CQ talked about specifically for this book, it was like near the beginning of specifically Adam and Eve's story.
Yeah.
We were talking about how Eve was somehow wearing makeup.
Yeah,
like,
Eve
she
is
had, like,
very
rings and
pretty.
stuff.
Yes,
Yeah, she had like
yeah.
rings and stuff like that. We were saying like she was out mogging Adam as well.
Also, don't some of these people look kind of brown?
No.
No? I feel like this guy kind of does.
The sailor or wait,
yeah.
Which one?
I think it's the brothers. I don't know.
I mean, this is like very Wonder
this
Woman
guy,
over
for
here.
instance.
This guy is very Wonder Woman.
Yeah, I don't know. Never
It's hard
mind.
to know because of the comic books they do the like shading.
I mean, yeah, never mind.
But this was also like when comic books were very popular.
It just would be interesting if they actually were brown, at least in the story, to go back to the Jesus is brown kind of thing.
Yeah,
Like, you know, anyway, that's what I was thinking about it.
Yeah, I mean, I found it interesting that he's not.
Yeah, but speaking of repurposing items with the beads that I gave you, those are used for a religious purpose back home and amongst the people I brought them from, which is my family. But for me, I brought them here as a decoration piece. Essentially, like they were legit. I just wanted some Arab Muslim decoration items that I can have around my place without actually being religious, because I'm not religious in any way. And yet I still wanted them and brought them all the way from Palestine, Israel to here. So that's kind of like, speaking of repurposing it materially.
Yeah.
I mean, maybe I detached it from the religious goal or purpose, but I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, so the kinds of relationships we form with stuff, even if we're not, one of the interesting things about Bilo's secondhand sacred exhibit is like most of the people, the sellers that he buys this stuff from, are not religious, but they're very interested in like religious kitsch, right? The like stuff with religious stuff on it. What do you think is behind that kind of fascination or interest? What do you think that means? Yeah.
I know for me personally, like I'm also not really religiously affiliated, but I have a lot of religious studies books on my bookshelf. So like I feel like an outsider coming in would think that I'm like very religious, but it's more so like I'm so interested in the study of it and kind of like the philosophies of different religions. For me, it's like that is the interest, is more so what religion is rather than
like this is not my personal devotion. Mary, then Susie.
One of my favorite YouTubers is her YouTube channel is called Fundy Fridays, and
you told me about that.
I love her so much. It's her and her husband, and they make videos about Christian fundamentalists or fundamentalist Christians either way. And like her recording room, like it has so much Christian like it has Orthodox Christian iconography. It has like precious moments everywhere, like so much material religion like everywhere. But she's very much like, I didn't grow up religious.
Yeah.
Like I grew up in the Bible Belt, but my, hometown, like we never really did a whole bunch of Christian stuff that wasn't already like imbued in popular culture. And a lot of it is our interest in how it is how it's gone into the political sphere and how it's gone into pop culture and how we don't notice until someone makes a video about it and we're like, oh my gosh,
so there's like some people that like to like pull it out, right? Like it's hidden in plain sight. Good. Susie, and then we'll come over to Dima.
Yeah, I was just gonna speak to the fact that religion is in general is such an important aspect of our culture that if you want to try and understand people, you usually have to also understand their relationship to religion, any religion, in order to like get the full picture. And that's just like the product of our country being set up the way it is. And I think that could be part of the reason why people are so fascinated with it is because you really can't. You want to understand everything, you got to understand that too. And Christians make some weird things.
They do. Dima.
A little, I guess, snippet was like when we were shopping at the clothes store. Me and I and Zaid, and we were picking up the items. I handed Zaid my card, and I was like, "Can you go check out? Because I feel like this lady's gonna be so confused." She sees me buying all of these really
Why is this woman in hijab buying all of these?
Which is so like if I wanted to do that, that's totally valid. But I was just like,
that's really well. And we had a conversation about one of the things we talked about in this with there are 4 Muslims in our class, and part of the conversation was like, you're not going to go and find a lot of Muslim stuff in secondhand shops, and part of the reason is like you're not supposed to represent the divine, and so this idea of it's a very ironically a very Protestant thing, despite Protestantism's hand wringing about stuff, they've managed to get behind it pretty well. I also want to just point out, that stuff has significance even if you aren't quite sure what you want to do with it. Like, I think we have things in our life where, like, I know I want this. I don't know why I want this. And the 2 things that one, Isat shared this story with me. It's just so dear, of his grandmother, who always sleeps with a Quran by her bed. She cannot read. She does not know how to read, but it's very important for her to have it by her bed. What I really love about it is that recently my husband got a small Quran and he now sleeps with it by his bed. He does know how to read, but he is an atheist. But for some reason, he really wants that Quran by his bed. I keep asking about it. He's like, I don't know. I think I'm going to read it one day. So there's this there's an intentionality with our attachment to stuff. And there's like the actual significance of the thing itself.
Let me just say, you have too many versions or copies of the Quran that I'm accusing her of spreading Qurans all over. Like wherever she goes, she's spreading them. So just noting that.
My mom has like a baby Quran, which obviously you can't read it. And so I feel like that's also a little
right. That is
a lot of Muslims have them with the rear mirror or whatever in their cars. That's why they're tiny.
My mom had one of those as well, but we also have like a really tiny one that you can that I with my big fingers can barely open as well. They were part of like a little set of like small Ramadan decorations of like small people and
almost like an ornament size. For a Christmas tree.
Yeah, it's like small, like heavily based on like Syrian culture as well as like Islamic culture as well. So we have one.
That's great.
It's just cute.
That is really cute. It's time.
Okay.
We're at time. But thank you, friends. Remember, tomorrow there's a whole other one, not about material religion, but about environmental racism. And thank you all so much. Very pleased.
Thank you.
All right. And these things will live for a little while somewhere. TBD.
Leave them there for people to stop as they are.
I know, I kind of want to. I think we're going to have to move on the shelves eventually.
Speaking of religious objects in cars, in Sri Lanka, Buddhists keeps, many Buddhists, not everyone, keep little Buddha statues in the car.
Yeah. Oh wait, let's take a picture with it real quick.
Only pictures?
Yeah, even though it's not so